Hey, hello friends. Welcome back for today's session. And today we are going to look into some hands-on programming by using R tool, R programming language, and all. Right. For those who are attending it for the first time or watching my session or my recording for the first time, this is my introduction, which is in front of your screen. Right. My name is Pranav Gandhi. I work as trainer and consultant. Over 22 plus total industry experience, and these are the various domains I have covered, right? Be it softwares, healthcare, plastic, manufacturing, automobiles, import and trading, insurance or banking, and telecommunication, etc., etc. And some of my academics and certifications are also mentioned over here, right? And of course, in the bottom of the screen, you will see all my contact details, and through which you can connect me, like LinkedIn, Gmail, then my WhatsApp number or my direct contact number as well. And of course, I do have a Facebook page, right? So you can also that link for the Facebook page will be, of course, mentioned in the description of this video. So you can also stay connected by using that page, right? So let's start with today's session with some basic, very basics of R programming. So those who are proficient in R or knows little bit about R, probably this session won't be for you. This is particularly I'm creating it for the beginners, okay? The beginners for data science, the beginners for of course this language R, or the beginners in overall programming arena or something like that. Those who are non-IT guys, okay, for them it is going to be very helpful. Okay, I have created some very basic level code so that you will get an idea about how this IDE of R does function. And of course, those who are interested to have this code, okay, they can directly mail me. I will send this R file to them so that they can use it for their practice purpose. I have already created a couple of videos for R and Python programming, how to download the tools and all. Okay, so that downloading part has been already covered. Okay, so today we are going to look into the basic codes and basic functionalities. So basically, friends, this complete whatever you are seeing on the screen is called as an IDE. Okay, it works an IDE. It work as IDE for R language. Okay, it is also called as R Studio. Okay, it is majorly having 4 different panes. So these 4 different blocks, white panes, these are called as panes. Here where my mouse is hovering right now, that is also another pane. This is console pane, and this is where all these different options are there. So if I click on this, I'll get to see it over here. So various file paths, etc. All sorts of visualization, plottings and all. I can we can plot it over here. Different packages, of course, if I want to install, because when it comes to a programming language, right, so there will be always some basic functionalities. Then second level will be, you can have your own functions written, which are called as user defined functions. And the third one will be some of the functionalities which are not default with the base of R. Okay, so those who have been developed by a community of R programmers, and being R language as a open source language, so there are a lot of packages developed for different functionalities by the community of R programmers, right? So all those packages will become handy when a specific functionality, if we want to use, which is available in that particular package, right? So you can see over here in the right bottom corner where my mouse is there, I'm scrolling down. these are all various packages available in my system right now. These are the list of packages which are in my laptop, which I have already downloaded. Some of them have been downloaded with, when I download the R, that time it has been downloaded, and some of them I have explicitly downloaded for using by programming purposes, right? So how to download a package and all, we will see in a little much time from now. But right now let us focus on, or start with, very beginning level line of code. So it actually works as a calculator as well, right? So if I want to execute this, if I execute this line of code, 2 plus 2, okay, the answer will be printed over here. You can see here there is 4, right? So let me close down this of my video mode option, because I also want to use this global environment, okay, where I will show you how the variable declaration and all sort of information will be displayed over here, and how to use it for our purposes, right? So this is the first line of code I have executed, and you see over here that the 2 plus 2 line of code has been written over here, and the execution has been printed in the console window. Similarly, same code I can write in the console as well, and you see I get the answer over there as well. So any function I want to use, I can use it over here in this section, in this area, or over here as well. So what is the difference between these two areas? The difference is I can save this code for reusability. Like if suppose I write few line of code, and if I want to use it again and again and again and again, okay, so I can simply save this file by clicking the save option. Like, you know, this is because Windows sort of thing, so you can are aware of this, how to operate this and all, right? So I can save this file, okay, and whenever I want to use it, I can open it with, okay, to execute the line of code. There are various saving options available, of course. So if I change over here, you see here it has become a red color, okay. So and this has been enabled now, so I can just click on this so that the file will be saved in my directory, which directory is used by this session particularly, okay, and it has been converted back to black color from red color. So these are some very basic level things which I am not going to repeat again, but all those people who are non-IT background, for them I am just explaining this and making them friendly with this environment. That's it. Alright, now as we have understood the difference between this particular coding and if I write a code over here, because I cannot save this, okay, if I try to save it, I have to save it by saying copy and paste, and I can save it in Word file, but then while executing it back, okay, I have to remove all these, you know, greater than symbols, which will be also copied into the Word file, right? So now let us move on, okay, and now if I want to execute this line of code where I am saying I want to print numbers from 1 to 50. So if I want to print numbers from 1 to 50, I will say 1:50, which means print 1 to 50 numbers in console. Same thing I can do it in a reverse way, that is 50 to 1. Now what is the difference between this? Of course the sequence is different, but you can see over here 1 and 35, here these are called as indexes, right? So indexes means in this line of code the value 1 is stored in number 1 index, whereas in this line of code the value 1 is stored in value 50 is stored in index 1, right? This is the basic difference between this. So this is the part of indexing. Now if I want to store these numbers into something called as random variable, which we have learned already into our basics of statistics. What is random variable, right? So I can store these values into variable y, like 10, 11, 12, 13. So 10 to 20 values has been stored over here. Now if I want to access the third element in this series of values, because these values are in sequence, so if I want to access the third element, I would say y in square bracket 3, which means that I want the third element stored in y variable, and that is 12. Similarly, I can store these numbers or this sequence into variable z. Now there is a subtle difference between this. You see here I have used equal to symbol. Here I have used something like this, minus and greater than symbol, and there is one more symbol which is predominantly we use as a standard practice, and that is less than and minus symbol. So there is a difference between this, is that the industry standards or industry practice, right? So this is the way which normally been used in the industry, right? So in all the three methods, the values are being stored in the variable. You can see here z is carrying these values, right? And if I want to access the fifth element from z, I can say z of 5. I'll get the fifth element, which is 19. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So I got the fifth element over here. But when we are going to use a standard practice, which is this way of writing the coding, okay, and not this. We should not write the code in this way or in this way. That is by using equal to symbol or minus and greater than symbol, right? So there is always, whenever something new we have seen, whenever we buy a printer as well in home, okay, it prints with something like hello world or something. If I want to print it, or if I want to print anything for that matter, okay, I'm going to use the print function over here. I can use the print function, which is going to print something in the console. So you see here in the console, the output has been printed. Similarly, I can print any variable values into the console. So if I use the print function and in that I say z, okay, so whatever values z is carrying, all those values will be printed over here, okay. Now I am storing a value phi in x. So class is another function which tells me what is the class of this variable, okay. So I can say class of x. It will show me that it is a numerical class. Similarly, earlier we have seen y and z as well. So I can write class of y. It will give me integer, right? If I say class of z, it will give me again integer, right? So this is a basic difference over here when it comes to classes, because it has stored a series of numbers and it has stored only single value, right? You can see x is only carrying number 5 over here, that is why it is numeric, okay. But here it comes to integer, and this is some of the basic differences. So those who are watching, who are already into programming, and suppose they want to still attend this, then they will find out a basic difference. Suppose someone is coding in C programming language or some other programming language, Now these are some of the basic differences. You are going to understand the data types today as well, right? Okay, now this is one single value, number 5, I have stored in X. Now I am changing the value from X to this 5, okay, that is in single inverted comma. And if you see the class of this X now, it has become character. And if I put it in double inverted comma, and if I check the class of X, it is still in character, right? So we have seen numerical values, numerical data type or class, integer class, and then character class. Okay, so these are the classes, right? Okay. Now let us try to I want to clear out this console, because it is lot of printing has happened already in the console. So if I want to clear this control, what I would say is I will press Ctrl plus L, which is going to clear this console screen. Okay, so if I say Ctrl L, it has been cleared, right? Now let us start afresh again. Now I am storing 1.5 to 5.5 values in sequence or in series in X. So if I say 1.5 colon 5.5 and the values are stored, they are stored in exactly a difference of 1, right? So when it comes to sequence with colon operator, okay, it works in this way. What is the class of X? Now again it has given me numeric, right? So though here number of these things are available, number of numbers are available, okay, here also number of numbers are available, okay, but there is a difference between these two. In these two types, it has given me an numerical class, whereas here it is giving me integer class. Okay. Now I am assigning few specific numbers to it, because till now what we have seen is assigning a series of numbers to a particular variable. Now if I want to assign a specific numbers to a particular variable, that is 3.5, 5.5, 8, 1, 2, okay, I can store these values in my random variable y, and I can print it over here. So you can see here the values has been stored, but there is again a difference. The 3.5, 5.5, I have given 8, 1 and 2, but it has taken it as 8.0, 1.0 and 2.0, right? So even if I have not given the decimal values over here, it has converted it into the decimal values. Why? Because some values are there in decimals, right? Now as there is no a, if I say I want to create an a variable which is going to be a storage for the result of x plus y. So this is going to be my x value, this is going to be my y values. Okay, I'm just trying to add these values into these values, right, and store it in a very new variable called a. So these are the values which a is going to carry, because it is simply an addition of the numbers in x variable and the numbers in y variables, right? And now as I can print it into the console by simply saying the variable name, that is a. I'm executing the line number 45, you can see, and I can even print it. Okay, so both way I can have it in console to see it. If I want to see any documentation about any function I am using, okay, then I'm going to put the question mark symbol behind that function name and say run, and you will see here in the right bottom pane you will get the entire documentation for that particular function, right? You see here. So those who are interested, so whenever, see, normally what happens is all the documentation for all the functions are available. Okay, so if suppose we want to use some function in depth, okay, then we can go through all the documentation and use these different arguments, okay, or you can also say that these are attributes of this particular function, right? So we can, if I want to use any of this attribute, I will simply read what it does mean and all. Or if suppose I want to have some kind of functionality to be provided by a particular function, then I will go to that particular function documentation and I will go through the entire documentation and I will search for that particular functionality which I am searching for, right, looking for. Alright, so my x variable is having some values over here, y variable is having, z variable is also having some values over here, right. So simply I am saying now add these x and z values and print it in the console. Now what happens over here? I got a warning message. Why I got a warning message? Because if you see here, x is carrying 5 numbers whereas z is carrying 11 numbers, okay, and there is a mismatch. Then how the addition of each number to number possible? So what happens in this way, in this case, you know, the 5 numbers available in x will be added to 5 numbers, first 5 numbers from z, and then from 6th number onward again the x values will be repeated and the total will be given to us. Okay, why and how we are going to see, because this file is very long. You can see I'm just, you know, trying to show you some basic level tricks or what you can say mistakes normally a new people tend to generate or tend to make, right? Okay, now if I want to multiply this x with the value 2, okay, that is double the number of numbers available in x, and I will simply say x into 2. And you see here 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, because x is having 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 and 5.5, right? So all these numbers have been doubled. If I want to use the, do the squaring of all these numbers, I will use this symbol. This operator is also called as cap operator. Okay, it is also called as cap. So I am using a cap over here and I'm saying I'm squaring the numbers over here. So all the numbers have been squared. Now if I want to see the list of objects, the list of object means, you can see here there is a global environment. Till now we have declared variable a, x, y, z. Okay, so like that we keep on declaring variables, functions, values. All those things will be displayed over here. This is a visualization tool. So you will see if you are working on any project, okay, and whatever different fields or variables you are using or functions you are using, all those will be displayed over here. Now if you are doing some practice purpose work and if you want to clear everything, you simply say, first of all you will say ls, that is what are the list of objects I have till now declared, right? So it will give me all the values from ls or global environment, okay, list of objects. And if I want to clear this environment, there are two ways. Actually I can use this, it will give me clearing option for removing option for all the variables, and through code also I can do it. Okay, through code how to do that I will show it in next line of codes, right? If I want to check what is the version of my R Studio, so this is the version of my R Studio. So simply write down version and it will give me all the version details about my own R Studio installed in my system, right? Now if I want to check how many built-in functions are available in R, right? So as I said, there are 3 different ways of having the functionalities used in any programming language. One will be it is giving us the default functionalities or built-in functionalities. They are also called as built-in functionalities. Second will be user-defined functionalities, and third will be you have to install some packages to use some specific functionalities, right? So this particular RStudio version is coming up with these many built-in functions. You can look at in the console, 999 total functions it has printed over here, and omitted 3,345 entries. So console always print 1000 lines at a time. So these are 999 and this line is 1000 line. And omitted 345 means there are still 345 more entries available to show this result, right? Which means that it suggests me that there are 1344 basic built-in functionalities available with this RStudio version. If I want to create a list of all these functionalities, I can use a function called data.frame and just pass on this built-in function and store all functions in a variable called function. Okay, so it is going to store a list of all the functions. You can see here 1, 3, 4, 5 observations and one variable is there, right? If I want to show you this, you see here all the function names. And what was the 999? It was look at this as dot POSIXIT dot POSIXCT. Okay, so same function is displayed over here as well. And from 1000 onward to 1345 entries have been omitted over here in the console window. So I can create a list of it, and as and when I will, keep using them in my regular purposes, regular uses or regular programming, and as and when I will read the documentation and update my knowledge, I can create an Excel sheet of this and just keep on writing in my own words that why this function will be used, or where this function will be used, or what this function is all about, for my own listing purposes. Otherwise, it is always available with the help in RStudio. All right. Now let us understand there are different ways to import a data set, right? So as we have seen in our basic statistics, there was a MBA file. So if I want to import a data into our environment, how to import the data into our environment, right? Because always I am going to work on my data. So if I want to work on my data, okay, which is stored in any of the path, maybe it is in my system, maybe it is somewhere on the internet or server. Okay, so if I want to bring it down from there, okay, I can simply give the path and use the different functions. Okay, so right now I am reading a CSV file from my own machine, so I am using a function called read.csv, right? So there is something like read.html as well, which can, I can fetch the data from HTML pages or HTML formats. Okay, similarly there are different formats of data available which I can import. Okay, I simply have to give the path to it and find out which function will be useful over there to import the data, right? So this is one way of importing the data. So this MBA CSV file is in my D drive in Pranav Data Science Training, and in datasets folder, okay, there is this file located. I will show you that. So if you go here, Pranav Data Science Training, datasets folder, MBA file is there, right? And what is the path of this? So this is the path of this. I'm just copying it because we have already, I'm going to use it later. Okay, so let me import this particular data set, and you see here MBA1 is available in my global environment, which looks like this. There are 3 columns: data serial number, work experience, and GMAT column. Okay, those who have gone through the basic statistics videos they will be aware of this particular file or this particular data, because we have done the entire basic statistics on this data set only. Now there is one difference though, as because I have copied the path over there, so this is the path which Windows understand, and my operating system is Microsoft Windows. So you see here, there I am using Windows uses backslashes, right? So basically this is the path for my data set as far as Windows understanding is concerned. But when it comes to R understanding, that is R language understanding, you see here I have to convert all those backslashes into forward slashes, because R doesn't understand backslash, right? So this is very important point. Again, if I want to find out the description of read.csv, I can simply say question mark read.csv, and you will get it over here, what this function is all about, how can I use it, and where to use it, etc., etc. So you will look at that, how many different types of read functions are available just to read the data. So read.table, read.csv, which we have used, csv2 is different function. Okay, delimitations, if I want to use the delimitations, okay, from Excel, those who understand about Excel and those who are from this data management background, they will understand what is delimitation is. Okay, so there are various different ways to import the file. So this is one way of importing the file. Second way will be always, of course, very easiest way, just to go over here and say import dataset and say from text read R. Click on that, browse your file, select your file, say open. And if you see here, the preview has been shown to us and the code is also ready. Okay, code has been created and this is the same code. Okay, so read_csv, mba.csv is the file. It is reading it directly from there and it is showing it to me. Okay, name of the file it has given by default mba, because this is the file name in my system, and I can say import. Right, so MBA, this MBA and this MBA are same file. These are the two different ways of importing the data. Okay, but here the code created was through read_r. It was read_csv. What function we have used over here is read.csv. This is a basic difference. Now the third way is, if suppose I am working on a project and if my file is lying in my project folder. Okay, so every time if I want to run a new session, okay, instead of going through this pathway or by using this way, I can also set the directory to my project directory. So once I set the directory to my project directory, and if the file is located over there in that particular directory, I can directly access the file by using the file name, right? So when I say get wd, it is actually giving me the current working directory, and because my file is in current working directory, because this is the path where the file lies, I can simply say read.csv, mba.csv, and it is going to bring the file again, right? So this is the third way of importing it. And how to set the directory? You can use the set wd function, and to get the current working directory, it is get wd function. These are simple English words, okay, just to understand it, how simplicity is there when it comes to programming languages. There is no more complications over here, like those who are probably aware of programming is like C programming people, and those who have attended that or tried to learn that and found it very difficult. R is not like that. It is just a simple English language. That's it. Right. So we have seen three ways of importing the file, and the fourth one will be, of course, by using a file.choose. So I'm using read.csv function again. Within that function, I'm using file.choose. So here what I am saying is I want to choose my file myself. Okay, so I can simply search the file where my file is lying over there. I will go to that path and simply bring it. Okay, so these are the four different ways to import a file. Now, as we have seen already how the file look like, okay, by using this preview section of it, okay, or you can see over here there are 773 observations and 3 variables, okay. But in case if you are not using, you know, this IDE like this, okay, because you can, you know, anytime you can either minimize it or close this if you want to use it in only the scripting window like this, and only this one console just to get the results. Okay, if that is your idea to, you know, or that is your practice to work on the projects, because once you will get familiar with it, okay, obviously people would like to, you know, work in those formats and all, or try to choose that sort of a design of the environment. Okay, so in such cases these details are not available, right? So that time if I want to know for any particular file how many rows are there, then nrow is the function, number of rows my MBA file is having 773. N column, number of columns my MBA file is having 3 columns. View MBA1 means show me the data, right? So these are the simple functions, okay, number of rows, number of columns, viewing the file. If I want to see the structure of this particular data set, str means structure. So structure will give me the basic and quick overview about the variables and their data types, etc. Right? And some value for examples, as examples, which are contained by those variables. So this is a structure for you. If I say summary of MBA, so it will give me all our 4 moment of business decision, right? Because minimum value and maximum value is there, so I can get the range, which is second moment of business decision. First quartile is there, third quartile is there, so I can get the box plot information, right? Median is also there, so I'm getting mean and median, of course. So these are my first moment business decision. And with this, I can simply calculate the third and fourth moment business decision, or there are some basic functions available which I am going to cover up in the next episode, where we are going to learn, after learning this basic coding, okay, once you are familiar with this environment and how it works, okay, then I will, you know, get into introduction of the codes for the basic statistical analysis, which you know, the basic statistics as a topic we have already covered, but how to, you know, do it by using R code, that we are going to see it in our next video. Okay, so so skewness, kurtosis values can be calculated. Okay, so if I want to write any result from here, from our environment to my software, to my computer, or to my any of the server path or something, I simply have to, you know, choose that particular variable. So in this case, suppose I am choosing this MBA over here, okay, which is a data set. Okay, so this is an object. Okay, it is also called as an object. So I am choosing this object to be saved in my particular machine. Okay, so if I worked on this MBA file, and if I save the change result into this file, and if I want to save these changes into some particular location, okay, I will choose that object. I will use the file argument in the write.csv function excuse me, friends, and simply give the path, okay, where to save it. So right now when I am saying AAA.csv, so what is my current path? As we have seen, my current path is this, Okay, so the AAA.csv file will be saved, must be saved in this dataset folder, and I'm saying row names equal to false. Row names means these numbers which we see on Excel sheet. Okay, so I'm saying over here that I don't want these numbers to be repeated, and that is why I'm saying row names to be false, because if I am writing this file and these numbers are repeating, because data serial number is a column, these are row names, and in Excel by default I am having this first column available. Okay, so if I write this, I will show you. Okay, so let us go and check. Look at this. AAA file has been created, and if I open this file, you will see over here. Okay, these are the row labels or row names, the first column of, not first column, basically row labels or row names. Okay, and this is the first column. If I don't say this, row names equal to false, if I don't say this, suppose, and if I write a file, okay, so let us go and check it again. And now what happened over here? The row labels, the row names have been taken into consideration by while writing the changes in the file, right? So that is why I shall always say means it depends, depending upon my requirement, I would say row names equal to false. And now I want to clear all this from global environment. As I said, I will show you how to clear it. So I am saying remove, rm means remove is a function, and I am saying list equal to ls. So ls we have already seen, ls is giving me the list of objects. It has given me this list of objects from the global environment. Okay, I am passing this list to this rm to clear this, that's it. Okay, so rm has completed, it has removed all the objects created in the global environment. All right, now let us understand some more little more in depth. Okay, what is vector, what is list, what is array, what is matrix. Okay, so basically vector is nothing but it stores the element of the same type, and list is nothing but it is recursive and it stores different data such as numerical data, character data, logical data, etc., etc. So this is the basic difference between list and vector. So first of all, let us play around with this vector. So we are not going to do all this when it comes to data science, analytical and all these things. This is just a separate session I am creating for those who are, as I said in the introduction, that not familiar at all with anything about programming and all, right? So of course this is not going to be enough. Okay, this is just an introduction to the terminologies, how it look like, how to play around, and just an exposure for our environment. Okay, definitely you have to read some books or learn something from online whatever material available, etc., or if you want, I can even pass on the materials. So I am storing these numbers now by using the cof function to y. So what this cof function does, the cof function in R is used to create a vector with values you provide explicitly. So if either I can provide it explicitly or I can use the colon operator, which we have already used in some of the first line of codes, right? So I can create this vector. So y is now carrying these numbers. What is the class of y? It is numeric. Okay, if I am storing 2 value to a, and if I want to add this variable into this vector, I can do it. Still the class is numeric. But if I am storing this string a over here or character a over here into this same y, then what happens? The class of y becomes character, which means vector does not support vector. What vector has done? It has converted the entire series into character, because this is a different data type. And these are some basics of these are norms, we can say, R follows or R programmer follows, right? Okay, so I'm creating another vector called P, and I'm saying first element from Y and first element from P should be added together. So that means 1 and 1. So this is a character 1 and this is a numerical 1. So let us see what happens. It has given me the error, because non-numeric argument to binary operator, right? Character is a non-numeric operator, value or argument, which I am giving to binary operator. So it is not going to accept it, right? So total y and total p. So y as a vector, complete vector, and p as a complete vector, it won't be added, right? It won't be added. So I'm creating another vector over here where first few elements of character and then numeric value. If you see the class of v, it is again character. So by default it supports character vector, right? So again, if I want to try and add y, first value of y and first value of v, which is both the character, you cannot do the addition of two characters, right? Now what I'm doing over here is I'm creating another vector which is a numerical class and storing it into the y, okay? And if I want to access, okay, first 10 elements from y, so y is having only 5 elements. If I want to access first 10 elements from y, okay, it's not giving me an error, but what it is giving me, after the first 5 elements, which are the real values over there stored by y, okay, after that you will see there are 5 NAs because there are no values into it. Okay, so vector is, there is no length constraint to the vector. Okay, so it has, once it has created, it is having a lot of length over there, infinite length. Okay, and up till when the values are stored it will show, otherwise it will just show you the not applicable or not available. Now if I want to remove a third value from this y, okay, which is number 3, I can only say y equal to y minus 3, and you see here 1, 2, 4, 5, only 4 values remain. If I want to change the fourth element over here, which is 5, to 10, so I can do it. If I want to add the fifth element again, because there are now only 4 elements, if I want to add the fifth element, I can say it, right? Now if I want to fetch the first element, fourth element and the fifth element, then I would say in this way, y in square bracket c of 1, 4, 5, right? So first, 1, 10 and 11, these are the values printed over here. Now I am creating two different vectors again, x and y. These are the values x and y are carrying, right? If I want to add these two values, I can add it. Why? Because both of them are numerical, and obviously it is going to, so this is having 3 numbers, this is having 6 numbers, so it is going to repeat, okay, from the 4th number onward again from the first, right? So you see here 10 plus 1 is 11, 12 plus 3 is 15, 13 plus 4 is 17. So again 5 plus what will be there? Of course 10. So 5 plus 10, 6 plus 12 and 7 plus 13. Okay, so this is how it will work. Now if you remember the first moment of business decision, first function which we have seen was the mean, average, right? So if I want to calculate, or if I want to have the mean or the average of this data which is there I am mentioning, okay, then I can get it. Okay, so average of this series is 3 and mean is the function, simple function I am using. If I have a single value, I will get it as 1 only. But here now if you see, check these numbers, again it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, same like this. Then the mean of this data should be also 3, but it is not, it is 2. Why? Because it has not worked as mean. This function has not worked as mean. It has only considered this first number and not considered all other numbers. Why? Because we have not used the C of function. right? So that is why we have to always use the CF function if we are giving explicit digits to calculate the average or some other functionalities. Now if I want to store these numbers into X, I will not be able to. It will throw an error, right? And that is why the CF function is very important. So here I am using it so I can store the values. Okay, so I can now even calculate the values for mean of this particular X and store it in Y, and this is the mean. Okay, so when I store the value, it has displayed over here in the global environment. Otherwise, it has printed over here in the console. Right. Now let us look at some list. Let us create some list, few lists. Okay, so this is first list I am creating. So these are the values in the list I am going to store, and I am giving the name to the list as the rain. So rain has happened or not happened, happened or not happened, and there is one value which is 20. Okay, so rain has been created, and rain is having these a list of items, and temperature is having another list of items, that is 38, 32, 34, etc. So if you see the class of rain, it is list, right? And if I want to print rain, I can print it like this. So look at this. It looks like this when you print it in the console, right? Now I can create a matrix over here by using two different lists, right? And what is matrix? Matrix is like a either a single or multiple direction table. Okay, so I can have one single column or I can have multiple columns. Okay, it just create a table out of this data. So you see over here, because I have not mentioned that how many number of rows I want to have, right, and how many number of columns I want to have, it has simply added all the numbers into one column and created this matrix over here. Okay, so this is a matrix creation by using two different lists without providing the number of rows and number of columns, right? And if I want to assign these two lists, that is rain and temp, and create a different object over here, it will look like this. It is a little bit complex over here for beginners to understand, right? And there is another way of creating a matrix over here. Okay, so I am storing these values to temperature and these values to percentage, and I am trying to create a matrix out of these two different. What are these? These are not lists, these are vectors, because I am using the CF function over here, right? So temperature and percentage are vectors, and rain and temperature are list. Okay, this is the difference. So I have stored these values into these two different variables, and by using these two vectors, now I am trying to create a matrix. Okay, so when I want to use the vectors to create a matrix, I am also here giving how many columns I want to have. Okay, and it's going to give me the number of columns as well. Similarly, I can give how many number of rows I want, how many number of columns I want, and how it will be created. Are the numbers will be created or arranged by row or by column? So first of all, when we printed this, it was by column, right? Now I am saying it to be created by row. So here we expected only 4 columns from this. So what happened? You see here 38, 32, 34. These 3 numbers are arranged by column. So when I say I want a matrix, okay, from this data only, but I want 6 rows, 3 columns, and I am saying I want the numbers should be arranged by row. And if I print this, what is the class? First of all, class of M, it is a matrix. And if you see over here, then it has been arranged in horizontal way, that is by row. Similarly, I can have it for more number of rows and more number of columns. So what happens? I have only limited numbers over here, so those numbers are going to be repeated while creating the matrix. Okay, and here I am going to get again a warning message. because what it is saying us, in matrix, temperature and percentage, these are our two lists. N row equal to 10, n column equal to 3, by row equal to true. This is the line of code you want to run. But the problem with your code is data length is only 12 numbers over there, because you see here 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and these are 4 numbers. So 8 plus 4 are 12. So the data length, total data available is 12, which is not submultiple or multiple of number of rows, right? And what we are saying, we want it by row, right? So 12 items are not submultiple by rows, and that is why it has given us the warning message, but it has not stopped the matrix function to create a matrix with this 10 rows and n column. Because if you print this, now I am printing class M over here, and if I print the matrix, you see over here 10 rows has been created and 3 columns has been created. Okay, so job done has been done. I mean, job has been done over there, but the thing is that it has given us the warning. So whenever R gives you a warning, okay, just read it so that you will understand what mistake you are doing. And for more information, you can always, just copy this message, go to your best friend and put it over here and say enter, and you will get, there are a lot of articles on this. Okay, so I always say, okay, when you are trying to be a data scientist over here by learning this statistical analysis and data analysis and doing the course with me and all, okay, of course I will be helpful up to certain extent, so that you can all begin with sort of something. But then when it comes that you are going to be a scientist, which means that the job of a scientist is to do a research, right? And this particular world is so big. I mean, data science world and analytics world is so big, so huge, more than C even. Okay, so you cannot, by completing any sort of course, you are not going to have the 100% knowledge. Even right now I am teaching you, or trying to teach you, I may say that I may know only 1% of whatever is available as far as this industry is concerned, right? So we always have to do some research for it. Okay, so whenever you get warning message, error messages, just put it over here, go through, there are a lot of articles, just click on any of the link and just start reading on it, right? Okay, now that's about matrix. So there are some more matrix examples I will quickly run through. Okay, so 1 to 10 number of series. Okay, if I want to create a matrix and I'm saying comma 2, means what happens over here, I'm saying I want 2 rows, okay, by using these numbers 1 to 10. Whereas when I say array 1 to 10 comma, now again here it is vector information. Okay, so I'm saying over here is I want 2 rows and 5 columns. Okay, so you see over here, so this is how array function will work, this is how matrix will work, both the results are same. Okay, and that is why if I say are they identical, this x and y, yes, of course I will get the result as true, they are identical in structure, right? So whether I use matrix, whether I use array, for array I need to specify how many rows, how many number of rows and columns. For matrix I simply have to specify only rows, no need to mention columns, because it will automatically understand, right? And that is why matrix is the advanced version of all this vector, list, arrays, etc. Okay, and post matrix it comes the data frames. Okay, so all of us in our 99 more than that percentage are going to work on data frames. Okay, but data frame is an evolution from all these earlier deeper level programming techniques. Okay, so those who want to be into the core programmings and all, okay, they will work on this all these things. Okay, but the people like us who are working in data science and data analytics and all, okay, they don't have to, you know, get into this deep level unless you are having a specific interest and all. Okay, it is just, I'm creating a video, as I said, for all those people who simply want to understand what is R language and all, and what are the capabilities of it and all, etc. Right? So one more example of matrix is, so temperature we have, oh sorry, so this identical I have run, right? Yeah. So if I say array of 1 to 10, 2, 5, 2 means I'm saying 2 rows, 5 columns and 2 tables. So I got 2 tables like this, okay, which are identical to each other, and I have created 2 different matrices over here, correct? Now from earlier data where we have stored this temperature and percentage, so this is a temp, this is a percentage, this is the data we have stored in these 2 variables. If I want to use this to create a matrix with 6 rows, 3 columns, and I'm saying by row equal to true, again it has created like this. Okay, so 38, 32, 34, so first 3 elements it has taken, then 38, 40, 50, then 66, 12, 110, then 102, 103, 1, 2, 3, then again 38, 32, 34, then again 38, 40, 50. This is the sequence it has created this particular matrix. Okay. Now from this matrix, when I say n1 of 1 or 1 comma 1, which means I am saying from this matrix consider first row and consider first column. So I am talking about this particular element, that is 38. Okay, so to this particular value I am going to replace it with XYZ, right? And if I print n now, you will see the first value, first row, first column value has been changed to XYZ, and all the data points, all the information has been converted from numeric to character. If I want to access the second row and third column element from n, then this is the element, which is 50. If I want to access the entire second row, this is how I will write, and this is called indexing. This is called indexing. So I am saying this first digit will be always belongs to row, comma, this second digit will be always belong to column, right? When I say n nothing comma 3 means I am saying I want to access the third column information, which is this one. Right. So this is our n, and now I am saying that I want to access, this is my row information and this is my column information. So I am saying I want to access first 4 rows, and I am saying I want to access first 3, not first 3 columns. So difference is there. Here the colon mark is there, and here a comma is there. So meaning of this is I am saying I want to access first 4 rows, and I am saying I want to access first column and third row, the third column, right? So first and third column with all 4 rows will be printed. Look at that, right? So this is first column information XYZ 38, 66, 102, and this is third column information, that is 34, 50, 110 and 123. And as I said, we were only interested in first 4 rows, so that is why these are the rows. Now let us get into the data frames, which is the format on which we are going to work henceforward, right? So all these basics which we have learned till now is just to give you an idea about it, how R functions and what are the different capabilities it carries, programming capabilities. Alright, so data frame of M I am saying. So what is M first of all? If I want to print M, I can print it like this, or I can print it like this as well, by saying only M. Okay, so this is my M over here. Okay, so I have stored this values in M, which is a matrix. This is a matrix. I have stored or converted this matrix into a data frame and stored it in df variable or object. So this is how df look like. So what happens over here is, the difference between matrix and data frame is, now I have the column names available. Earlier the column names were not there, so it was not a labeled data. Now the data has got some meaning. Okay, so this data is called x1, this is called x2, this is called x3. If I want to access this particular x1, x2, x3, I can access it in by different ways. I can simply say x1, or I can say df $x1, or I can say structure of df, so where I will get all the three variable names, their data types and their sum of the values. And what is the class of df? What was the class of percentage? What was the class of frame? Right, so you understand over here now, this has become a data frame, this was a numeric, and this was a list. So you see here, rain is a list, df is a data frame, and temperature is, percentage is values. Values means numeric. Right, so this is data and this is values. This is how it differs. Alright. Now what are the column names for my data frame? So these are the column names x1, x2 and x3. If you see df over here, x1, x2 and x3, this is the data frame and these are the column names. Now if I want to change these column names with a meaningful names, how can I change my column names of a data frame? I will use cof function again, that is, I will create a vector of name, and suppose I have created it something like temperature Pune, temperature Delhi and temperature Mumbai, and want to just replace the names x1, x2, x3 by these three names. So I would say column names in df shall be replaced with these three names. Okay, and now if I want to access, or if I want to see the structure of df, you see here the column names are changed. Earlier it were x1, x2, x3, now it is these names. Now simply I can, if I want to access any variable or any column from any data frame, I would say data frame name $, because $ is the symbol over here to access a column name. Right? So data frame name $, when I say this, actually you can see over, I will get a list of all the names available. So I don't have to type in over here. I can simply say Pune and control enter. So it will give me the information available in temperature Pune column in data frame. Right? Now if I use attach function in data frame, for data frame, okay, then what happens when I attach it, I can directly access this temperature Pune column. If I don't attach this, then I cannot access it directly with temperature to temperature Pune column. So just now let me execute this. Now you can see here temperature Pune can be accessed over here because the data frame has been attached. Now if I detach it, and if I want to access the temperature Pune, it will say, oh sorry, it has not been detached. Let me detach it first. Why it has not detached? Let me check again. Yeah. Now it has worked. So it has given me error that temperature Pune has not found, because it doesn't understand this column directly. The R environment doesn't understand the column directly. You have to use this attach function to access the column directly. So if I attach it again, and if I execute this line, you see here, now it has not thrown an error, right? Okay. So viewing, we have seen already how to see the data. Look at that, the column names have been changed and the information is now become meaningful over here. Similarly, I can change the column names of our MBA data over here. Where is the MBA data? Is it there? Oh, we have removed it. So let me bring it again. Okay, so MBA 2 it is. So let me bring it down again. Where is that? Yeah. So if I want to change the column names of this MBA 2, okay. So this is our MBA. So data serial number, WorkX and GMAT are the column names. Those column names I am replacing by A, B and C. And it has changed now. A, B and C. Right. So this is how column name function works. Okay, I can create or change the name of the columns. So let us see the structure back again for DF. Okay, now if I want to access the second column, I can say DF nothing comma column. So when I say this, I have accessed the details of second column, right? The other way to access the details of second column is df dollar temperature Delhi, or I can use it like this, df temperature Delhi. But here it is giving me directly in a column format because I am explicitly mentioning the column name in square bracket. Okay, when I use dollar symbol, it gives me in this way. Okay. Now if I want to create another column over here, because in DF you see temperature Pune, temperature Delhi and temperature Mumbai, these three columns are available. If I want to create a column in this, okay, I want to create a new column like temperature Goa. Okay, so I am saying DF of temperature Goa, and I also want to give the values to temperature Goa. So to give the values, I am using arithmetic over here. Okay, so I am saying take all the values from temperature Pune and take all the values from temperature Delhi and add both of them to create a temperature Goa, right? So it has been created. You can go and see it over here. You see here the fourth column has been created with the addition of these two temperatures. The fourth column with the addition values are available over here in this particular data frame. If I want to remove this column now, because this is a fourth column, 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? So I will simply say -4, right? So DF of no rows I am selecting because all rows. When I am not mentioning anything means I am saying all rows to be considered, okay? And remove the fourth column from this data frame. So it has been removed, you see over here, right? And if I want to store it back, but it has been removed, and printed it in a console, but the thing is that it is not there, the change has not happened into the original data. Okay, still temperature Goa column is there. Now if I want to do this change to happen in actual or original data set, then I have to assign it back to DF. So what I am saying here is DF of all rows comma -4, assign it back to DF. So you see over here, now this DF has removed the temperature Delhi, the temperature Goa column, right? So this is how removing a column can work. Now if I want to change the name of a column, So I will use again column name function, pass on the data frame name, give the column number of which I want to change the name and give the name to it. Okay, and it's going to work to change the name of the third column into third column. So instead of temperature Mumbai, it is now third column, right? So this is how we can change the name of a column. Now I am changing the first row, first column value to XYZ again, okay, which is this value. It has changed to XYZ. Okay, let us see the summary and structure of this. Look at that, what happened. In summary, I am getting over here all the first, second, third moment business decision range and all, okay, mean, median, first quartile, third quartile for these two columns. But because this column has changed to the character data type, okay, I am getting the mode over here, okay, and it has changed to a character class, temperature Pune, right? So this is how this basic functionality works. And now let us understand some of the how to define a user defined function, how to declare a user defined function, right? So here what I am saying is I am creating a function called cube. Let us assume that this function is not available in R, and it is not, to my belief. Okay, so the cube function is not available. So I am writing a cube function over here. Okay, so user defined functions, as I said, can be utilized when when some of the functionalities are not available in our built-in functions, or if I don't know whether it is available in any of the packages or not, okay, but I know the logic, then I will go for writing my own user defined function over here, right? So I'm writing a cube function over here, okay, and what is the function of cube? Multiply the value 3 times. Okay, so I'm going to pass on a value which will multiply itself 3 times. So the syntax is function of x. X means which value I am passing into this particular function. In curly braces, I am saying x into x into x, right, which is going to give me the cube. So my cube function has been declared over here. You see here in the global environment, first we have seen data, then values, and now functions are also displayed over here, right? So now I am assigning some values to my p variable, that is 1 to 5 values. Okay, you see over here 1 2 3 4 5 values are assigned to p variable, and if I pass this p variable to this cube function, what I must get? I will get the cube of all these numbers, that is 1 2 3 4 and 5. Let us see. Yes, I got it over here, right? Similarly, I can write a for loop. Okay, so this is how I will write a user defined function. Okay, and there are some loops to be used. So when the loops will be used? The loops will be used when a particular activity will be iterated over and over again. Okay, and the results are to be accumulated and stored to observe what are the changes happening in every iteration. Okay, in such scenarios I am going to use the loops. Okay, so here I am saying for I in 1 to 7, which means I is a variable, random variable, is going to take a value from this 1 to 7 sequential numbers. Okay, so first time I will be 1, second time I will be 2, third time I will be 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and then 7. And every time this loop is going to execute itself or iterate itself, okay, and it is going to do this function. What is the function it has to be? It has been asked for to print the value of I, right? So if I execute this particular function, look at that, 1 2 3 4 5 7 will be printed over here, right? Now I am writing another for loop over here, where I am saying I should take values from 1 to 7, and in curly braces I am saying I am using some conditional operating over here, like if and else, right? So I is going to take values from 1 to 7. So first time I's value is 1, Okay, so I'm going to ask a question that if this double percentage mark is called as modulus operator over here, which means if I will be divided by 2 and the remainder of that arithmetic is matching with 0, then the I number should be even, otherwise it will be odd, right? So for I, first value of I will be 1, 1 divided by 2, remainder is not matching with 0, so 1 is odd. Second value of I will be 2, 2 divided by 2, remainder is matching with 0, so second value is even. So if I execute this, so it is going to print me or give me odd even values. 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, like that. Now even though I have declared this function and it is there, okay, in this particular session, I can use it anywhere in the coding. Okay, so cube function I have written earlier, but I can still use it. So I am saying cube of 5. Store the value in A, and you see here the value of A is 125. I can print that value. Okay, so the cube of 5 is 125. If I want cube of 1 to 4 numbers, okay, I will get it. So why I am running this cube function again is only to show you that I can use it anywhere in the code, okay, and this is my own function which I have written. Okay, so likewise I can write any functionality to be function and which can be reused, right? So when I write a user defined function, I will always write a user defined function when it is not available in the built-ins. I don't know whether it is available in any of the packages, because there are a lot of thousands of packages or hundreds of packages. I don't know whether that particular functionality is available in any of the package or not. But I know the logic. Then I will write my own function. But only when I will write it only then when I have to use that particular functionality repeatedly. Okay, then only we will go for user defined function. Alright, so let's see some of the built-in functions. So there is one function called sequence. So earlier I have shown you, if I want 1 to 10 numbers, I will use the colon and it is going to print it like this, or even 1.5 to 5.5 we have seen, right? But if I want 1.25, 1.45, 1.75, something like that, okay, so sequence is a function where I am saying give me 1 to 10 numbers, okay, with a difference of 0.20. So you see here, this is how it works. 1.0, 1.20, 1.40, 1.60, 1.80, and so on. Okay, and I can change it. If I want it, 0.50 difference should be there between each two numbers. You can see it. Right? So sequence is a function. There are a lot of such functionalities available, okay, which we have already seen by using the built-in function. Okay, it has given us the list of all different functionalities which we can use for our different programming purposes, right? Data is another such function which is again a built-in, but it is very useful because it gives me the names of the data set which R comes with. R programming language comes with all these data sets. You can see over here, these are the list of data sets, right? So why these data sets are given to us? For practice purpose, right? So when we don't have, now we are into analytics, we are into scientific analytics and all, okay, so all sorts of data we require to have to do the analysis, but many a times it happens that we don't probably get a data to work upon. Okay, so to do our practices, we have all different types of data sets available which are coming for free with R, right? So there is air passenger data set, there is BOD, which is biochemical oxygen demand, there is CO2, so carbon dioxide uptake in grass plants, okay, something like that, Titanic, okay, survival of passengers on the Titanic. And there are a lot of such data available. If you go, iris is very popular. Okay, so Aegis Anderson's iris data, which is a flowers data. It talks about different species of flowers, right? So the pressure, so vapor pressure of mercury as a function of temperature, something like that, you know. So if I want to access this data, or if I want to understand, okay, what the data exactly in those particular data set names, okay, I simply can say, if suppose I want to understand iris, what is iris, question mark iris, it will give us the entire documentation over here. So there are 3 species of iris, okay, and what are the columns, variables. So there are 5 variables. What are the names of the variables? Sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. If I want to see the data iris, I can simply say data of iris in double inverted comma, and then say view, and you can view the data, and you see here sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and the name of the species. The meaning of this is, for this sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, these are the numbers, okay. For these sizes, that particular species belongs to Setosa. Setosa is nothing but a type of species for flowers, right? Similarly, if I want, if someone is interested in European stock markets, okay, so you can simply say data of European stock markets and view the data, and you see over here European stock markets, these values are given to us, okay, and there are 1860 different values available, rows available, right? So if I am still interested to what is this European stocks talking about, you can simply go here, question mark, and say, and it contains the daily closing prices of major European stock prices, and this data belongs to 1991 to 1998. So 7 to 8 years data is given to us, right? If you are interested in to do the analysis on Titanic data, you simply say data of Titanic and say view, and you can see over here the class of passengers, that is first class, second class, third class, or crew member the passenger was, okay, its gender or sex, male or female, is given to us. Age of the person, in categorical variable it has given, actually, whether it is a child, whether it is an adult, something like that, and whether the person has survived or not survived in the Titanic crash, okay, that also that information also has given, and what is the frequency of those people, right? So meaning is first class passengers who were male and were adult have not survived, and how many of those were there? 118 people, like that, okay. And those who have survived, if you see, so crew member, male crew member, those who were adult and they have survived, yes, and how many were there? 192. So 192 crew members have been survived, whereas first class male adult only 57 have survived, and these many have died, okay. This is the meaning of this. So if I want to do an analysis on by using that data, okay, there are a lot of different questions available, so to say for Titanic, or so to say for iris, or for European stock markets, where I want to look the data from the analytical point of view and all, okay. So we can use all such data sets, and there are, you can see here, these many different total data sets are available from each and every industrial background. The data is available over here, right? And this is from the dataset package, okay, but there are some other packages which you can install into your system, okay. Those also come up with some different data sets, okay. So those data sets also can be used for doing the analysis, right? So finally, how to install the package? So package can be installed, if you want, if you know any package you want to install, you simply go here, type in first 3 digits, or and you will get the list of all the package names, okay. If you find your interested package is this, okay, simply say install over here. Don't forget to check this install dependencies, so that whenever a new package will be installed, okay, it will be installed with all the dependencies available, right? And it will be directly connected to CRAN, which is comprehensive R archive network, which we have discussed while in the video of how to download R, right? So this is a one way of installing a package. Okay, so these are all installed package. Okay, if you want to install an update for the package, just select the package and say update. It will be updated. Okay, but this is a one way of installing the package. But then the other way of installing a package will be something like this. Just say install, and you will see a list of options comes there. So if I want to install, suppose Moment. Okay, so first we have to see whether the Moment is available or not. So it is available over here, right? So Moments package is available, and R and Python, both languages are actually case sensitive languages. So we have to check whether we are typing it right. So it is a small m. Okay, so though this package is already installed, version number 0.14 is available. Okay, so I am saying install Moments. So it is going to install the updated version of it. Let's see how it happens. Look at that. It has started installing, and if you see, when R is functioning, doing any activity, you will see a red dot symbol over here. The package is successfully, you can see here the red dot symbol. Okay, and the package Moment successfully unpacked. Okay, and it has been installed into a particular location. And now if I say this Moment package, okay, so yes, 0.14 only, so probably there is no new version available, and that is why it is coming with 0.14 version only, right? So it has not changed, or there is no new version available. That is why the same version has been installed. So this is how you can install a package. And if I want to use the functionalities, so Moment package will be used for what? To calculate the skewness, kurtosis, related things, right? So whenever I want to use any package, okay, I have to invoke that package by using library command. Okay, so simply say library of Moments. That's it. Which means now I can use the functionality of Moments in my program. So if I want to see a skewness now, okay, so this function is available now because the package has been installed. If I don't have this package, I cannot use this function. Okay, so if I remove this package, let me uninstall it. Are you sure you permanently uninstall Moments? Yes. Now the Moments package has gone. Okay, if I say it again over here, look at that, the package is not there. And now if I say try to search this skewness, okay, it is still coming, but it will not function. It is as a word it is coming, but not as a function it is coming, right? It's not a function skewness. So still if I double click on this, you see here a bracket is not coming over there. And if I use it for my analysis, MBA $3 MBA $1, look at that, I'm not getting anything over here. Why? Because if I use it like this, MBA $1, I must get a list of MBA 1. So MBA 1 is not there. Let me check. Oh, MBA 2 is there only. Okay, MBA2 has these three because we have changed the name of the columns of that MBA2 file, and earlier all the MBAs which we have imported, I have removed it, while clearing this. That is why it is not coming. And they are appearing over here is only because it is mentioned, the names are mentioned in my codes over here, like MBA1, MBA2, right? So these names are mentioned over here, and that is why this thing is coming. Okay, but it should come like this, right? When I say it should come like, see, MBA2 is available only, right? MBA1 and MBA3 are not available, and you can simply see it by looking at these symbols as well. So this is a term, or what you can say, a word used in this particular code, and that is why it is appearing, but it is not a data frame. It is not a data frame. This is a data frame, right? So if I want to use this functionality skewness on this MBA2, B column, then what it is showing me, it is giving me an error because the function is not available over here, right? So what I have to do is I have to install the movement package, so again it is installing. Alright, so it is showing me moment is in use and will not be installed. So let me remove this. Not actually. Can I say library moments? Yes, so maybe it has been installed already again. No, it is not there. So let me check again now. Yeah, it is giving me error. So I have to restart, which means yes. Alright, so this is successfully installed now. You can see it is appearing over here again, 0.14 version number, which means the older version. Okay, and now if I say skewness of MBA2 $B, I must get a value. Oh, sorry. So why I am not getting it? Because I have installed the moment package, but I have not invoked it. So I have to always invoke the package for every session. Okay, so right now this is a new freshly installed package, but I have not invoked it. So I should invoke it by using library function, and now I will get a value of skewness. So 2.60 is the skewness for MBA $B. $B is nothing but the data series, workx column, if you remember, right? So if I bring that MBA, the original MBA, right? So this is MBA1, and you see here second column is workx column. So this is what the skewness for workx column, right? So while doing an analysis, this is how I will, of course I'm going to create a video on that as well, on how to use this basic statistic functionalities like mean, median, mode, skewness, kurtosis, how to use the graphical interpretation through R code, right? Like histogram, box plot, and whatnot. There are a lot of different plots available. And then, of course, we are also going to see how to calculate the z-scores or t-scores or how to calculate the probability from Z table, etc., etc. In our next lecture or the next session, okay, there we are going to discuss about how to use R code for basic statistics. All right, so that's it for today as far as basic level coding is concerned. Okay, if you have any doubts, any suggestion, any feedback, okay, you can please get in touch with me, get in contact with me through all the possible mediums available. I am of course going to give you all the information to get in touch with me or get in contact with me in the description of this particular video, right? And obviously I am also going to share you with this particular video all the other required details and all, right? And for those all who have liked this session, please do like hit the like button on YouTube channel. And if you want to be connected with me and my channel, you can like my Facebook page. Okay, the information, the link will be given in the same video description. You can even get in touch with me through LinkedIn, or you can also subscribe the YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so that you will not miss any regular updates or any regular informative videos which I am creating. Okay, so that's it for the day, guys. Thank you very much for joining. Take care. Bye bye.